How's this? More, lower. What's up, Matsu? What's up, Gary? How you doing? And that's it. Gary, thank you for the host, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this song has just been like this, the sound of this song and the kind of subsequent songs I'm gonna put out. This has been like a year process of like fine tuning. Like, okay, what am I doing? Like, what is the sound of what I want my music to be moving forward? And this is kind of like if 2020 was me kind of proof of concept and prototyping, this is like the result of like this kind of sound. And so if you like this style of high energy music, I think you'll like a lot of music I'll be putting out for the next few months, if not longer. So yeah, I'm glad everyone enjoys it. I'm glad you guys are here to kind of celebrate this with me. It means a lot, actually. So without further ado, let's kind of like just kind of digest this session. And by the way, no, so I saw someone comment, I think it was R, who was like, are the vocals Nikki Simmons' voice as a source? And it's not. I originally used my voice, but I didn't get a good result immediately. I'm sure I could have gotten a better result, but I didn't like what I was getting so far. So I used different vocal samples, which I'll show you in a minute. But so you can see right here, we have a channel here called Squid Sing. And this is where all of the, come on, computer, you could do it. This session is very intense process-wise. So plus streaming, it's going to be a little tense, but hopefully nothing will cry. Let's try it. Right. So I'll just show you what the squid voice sounds like by itself. And so let's kind of talk about this for a second. So there's a lot of different like layers of effects going on. The first one that's very prominent. Okay, we don't want you. James, this song is stuck in my head because of the fact I listened to it for hours straight. Hell yeah, good. Right, so this is actually, if we take off all of the effects, this is actually the vocal source. Turn this off. Did it do its thing? Let me group it actually first. Let me group it. And I saved this in a separate session, so anything stupid I do, I won't lose the extra stuff. So this is the original audio. Right? I took this loop right here from some random pack, and I did a lot of processing to it. I think the original source might even be this weird thing from, if I go show a browser. Is it this? Right, it's just a random, like, vocal thing I made. Hey, Dimitri, how you doing? What program are you using right now? I'm using Ableton Live. Actually, this isn't even the original source, but that is a source of, like I chopped up a vocal, like, sample and then export it to make this longer file, right? But so let's kind of go through the effects. So the first thing I need to do with that sample is actually raise the pitch in a very specific way. And so we do that. Let me ungroup actually. I'm gonna ungroup this. We'll ungroup. And so let's go through like what the main sauces are. So I'm gonna just turn off every effect here to demonstrate. There's a lot of effects on this because I had to kind of process it to not only the struggle with doing a lot of these kind of special process vocals is that not only do you need to sound like the voice in this very characterized way, but then you gotta make it mixed good, and that's the hardest part, I think. So the first thing I have here is this thing called Pitch Wheel, which is a plugin that can. Oh, is it not showing it? Here it is. Yeah, this is Pitch Wheel. So Pitch Wheel can do a lot of formants and literal pitch changing, right? So by turning this Pitch Wheel on, we hear this now. Right? So you can tell already with this pitch wheel effect on how different this, like how it's already close to the squid voice. It's pretty close. And so what I did is in this left value right here, I'm pointing to the computer screen when you can't see my finger. That's useless. You can see here that I'm raising it by 12 semitones. That is 1 octave. And over here, I'm also raising it by 12 formants, 12 like half-step formants essentially, and that's what creates that effect. And you can really kind of dial in exactly what you'd want your sauce to be, right? So if I wanted to get really weird, you can get some really cool vocal sounds this way. Right, but so that's where we're starting off at the baseline of like what is the like if we're making a good sauce in the kitchen, this is like the base of our sauce. Like this is the oil, this is the garlic and the onion. Like we're making the body of the sauce right here. This is very important. The next important thing is kind of with this, because I'm referencing the Splatoon voices, so I use that as kind of a place of like, okay, how do I A/B like how everything sounds? We making sauce and food? We sure are. We sure are, man. And so what I noticed with the Splatoon voices is that they're not that bright. They're actually pretty filtered out. And a consequence, come for the tunes, stay for the food analogies. Come for the tunes, stay for the foods. So what you notice immediately is that when I process the vocals to be higher, it's much brighter and almost a little too bright for my taste, especially if you want like that warmer squid sound. So I had to turn on this EQ to kind of just kind of cut a lot of the high frequencies. You can tell how much softer it is in the high end, right? Versus And a lot of people would say, oh, that sounds some people would say, who are music producers, would be like, that sounds kind of phasey. It doesn't sound right. But in this context, I actually want the voice to be a little phasey, because that's what creates that kind of synthetic-y squid sound that the Splatoon is derivative of in that voice. Now, let's go to the kind of another important sauce here that kind of makes the squid voice and vibrato come to life. And that is a thing called autofilter. And most plugins, by the way, you can do this in any software program. This is not just an Ableton Live exclusive thing. But autofilter is the main, I think, is kind of if the pitch wheel effect is the body, the autofilter is like, that's like the meat. Like not the meat, more like the spices. This is the spice part. Because here with autofilter on, that's what creates the vibrato effect. You can see this automation right here. This is controlling these values are controlling how much vibrato I want in that squid voice. This is really, really important because like a normal human voice, right? We don't always want right? We want some kind of normal sound, and then we want that, right? You want a little bit of both. But that's the idea. So with this auto filter, it's at one certain pace. Yeah, let's go Dino, I guess. But you get what I'm saying, right? And I can control different values if I want to. Like I'm controlling this thing called an envelope on the bottom left, if you can see, down here. But normally, like that's not the result I want. But if I want, I can really adjust values of how much of a vibrato I want. Right, Karen. Well, that was a song to walk in on. It sure is. How you doing, Rob? What's going on? And you can tell too with the auto filter, like you need to kind of find a sweet spot of how much you want that filter to vibrato back and forth. Because if you go too high in the filter value down here, you're not really gonna get much of a vibrato effect. But if I go too low, it's gonna cut out the sound. So you have to really find that sweet spot. So that pitch effect and this filter vibrato effect, that is like the main target sounds. Now everything else is like real, just like kind of parsley detail, like ultra detail flavor, right? Like I have a thing called over down here called bit reduction or bit crush. This is just to give a tiny bit of like distortion detail to make it feel I don't know if I write the word for it, but in Splatoon, it's not like a clean sound. It's a little bit, tiny bit lo-fi sounding. And it's very subtle, but you can feel it, right? Yeah, so this effect right here, it's called bit crusher. It would be known as bit crusher or bit reduction in Ableton. This is very important, or redux in Ableton, actually, it's what it's called. So I'm gonna turn it off. Right? And I turn it back on. It just has a little bit of like almost like a chip tune kind of sparkle to it. It's very subtle, unless you know what it sounds like. And it's a little detail that I think went a long way. It's also kind of a pain in the ass to mix with. Another important sauce that I've been doing a lot more with all my sound design, kind of like almost like I would consider like a all general squid effect, Like if you're getting that badilla, like, you know, seasoning you put in all your meats, the badaya, whatever it's called, right? You want that kind of like that poultry seasoning. That's what this frequency shifter effect is, but for squid music. Because what I do here, by turning this frequency shifter on, not badaya, it's like badaya, I think it's called. It's like some like kind of like Mediterranean, Caribbean, like Hispanic spice. It's really good. It's very subtle. Bit reduction, the coolest sounding, most obnoxious effect to the mix. I know, it's so obnoxious, Rob. But frequency shifter is the shit. So this is a kind of a little bit of an advanced thing, but it creates this badilla. Yeah, exactly. I got it the first time. So frequency shifter is the shit because it creates this. It creates what is called as a phasing effect, and I'm doing that by having my dry wet down here being 50% and having the fine of it being ever so slightly detuned to the left or to the right, to be fair. And it creates this effect that you're hearing. And you're like, I don't really hear a difference, possibly. For some of you might hear a difference, but for me, there's this clear kind of phasey, kind of wavy sound. It's like if the voice is like kind of like moving. And so what's going on here with this frequency shifter is that imagine if there's two voices, and this is a kind of like abstract math shit. So if this is going over your head, I apologize. But basically, imagine if there is two of the exact same sounds playing at the same time. If you combine them together and add them, the sound becomes louder, right? But if you slightly adjust the sound to not be exactly the same position, you create phasing. And phasing is what creates this really interesting characteristic where the sound kind of like moves, almost like kind of like a wavy effect. Perjury, how you doing? That is a very important sound in this process that makes a squid sound a little more, or any sound, a little more synthetic, a little more like, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? So I'll show you again. This is with the sound on. This is with it off. It's very subtle, but it's a detail that goes a long way when you're processing that voice. It's just subtle enough. And by the way, these values these values are pretty specific and important, because if I make my fine really intense, it's gonna be very noticeable. Which, by the way, is a really cool sound if you're doing sound design. It's a really, frequency shifter is really, really cool. I definitely recommend anyone who's in music production to experiment with this effect, because you can get a lot of great sound design this way. But you can tell immediately, like, yeah, like just by even adjusting the fine, like you think the fine value is like a few hertz. It's not a lot of value, but that hertz amount can make so much of a unique difference. I walked into demonic squid sounds. How you doing, Sev? Yeah, the fine is really important. So just by ever so slightly. If you listen to a lot of like rhythm or dubstep or a lot of music that has sound design in the forefront, at some point in time, there's gonna be some, like, a lot of sounds use some phasing effect, and this is how a lot of people do it. See you later, Soy. Later. Anella, let's see. Anella Rav, I love that in your music, you always put a lot of dedication and care to every detail. That's what makes the song incredible. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's like FM with the FM. Exactly. Hey, follow. Thank you, Soy. I appreciate it. Thank you for the GameCube. I'll go back to right, so that is kind of, at this point, that is the bulk of the sound. I also later on do a little bit more adjusting, but that's like when we hear, like, that is the by and large the Squid sound. Things like Pro MB, down here, the EQ, that's just mixing details, right? I don't know what this pitch wheel's for, actually. What did I do with this pitch wheel? What is this for? Oh, now I know I did. Okay, so like, again, another detail of this voice is that I actually wanted to, like, I thought that this voice by itself, it's fine, it's a good sound, but I felt like it didn't have enough body to it. It's a kind of on the high end and not so much on the low end. And so what I did was I actually layered in, and it's probably not the best way of going about it, but fuck it. I used another pitch wheel, and you can see that I lowered it by 12 semitones, a whole octave. And the trick is, you think, James, well, you added 12 earlier, and now we're doing minus 12 now. Why did you do that? That would cancel out. No, because we're going to do, with this mix value over here is at about 25%. And so what it means is that we're only going to make 25% of my sound to have that lower squid voice. Does that make sense? Just seeing the interface is casting confusion on me. I know, it can be a lot if you don't know how to process music production. But I'm doing my best to explain. It's kind of a wild journey, but I you know, once you know, I think it takes about like a few weeks to like digest, like, what the hell am I looking at, you know? But this mix value is basically what creates that effect. So if I turn this on right now with this this octave below effect, it has body. It has a little bit more of a low end. And once again, if I turn this off, and both are pertinently fine. Chance in the corner, bit wick. I'm thinking about it, Rob. You will be that little, you know, producer devil on my shoulder, creepy, whispering in my ear, bit wick 3. That ASMR right there. But right, so that extra detail can go a long way if you want your voice to have a little bit of body to it. Things like this called Endless Smile is a great little plugin by Data Life. That's actually not even present here. It's present during the build. I believe it is, right? Where is it actually happening? Yeah, I believe it happens. Where does it happen? Where does it happen? Intensity. Yeah, it happens toward the end of the song. So like right here, where I have in the build, I'm jumping ahead. But yeah, Data Life is great. This Endless Smile basically creates this really luscious, like, reverb effect. Great for like drops and builds and things like that. It's a very good effect. Hey, baby, can I fatten your sausage? You sure can. For producers, if you want to get a really nice reverb automated effect, just in a box, no fuss about it, Endless Smile is awesome for that. Fantastic plugin. I use it a lot lately. And then last but not least, I actually put in a little bit of auto-tune because I want the squid sound to be a little bit more robotic. It's a very subtle effect. Very subtle auto-tune. Just to get a little more on pitch, because, you know, with all these effects, all this processing, the tuning of the voice is gonna be all over the place, and so just a little bit of auto-tune can go a long way, just to kind of clean up kind of like the weird like pitches. For wondering why we got K stream, there's a dialect plugin called Sausage Fattener. Thanks. Yeah, I have to remember that. Oh yeah, people don't know that there's a thing called Sausage Fattener, which, by the way, doesn't really help our case, Rob. Doesn't make things better. Hi YouTube, how you doing? But so that is the main. It creep loud. Is it too loud right now? Really? Is the voice too loud? Oh, I mean like loud. Okay, I'm an idiot. Okay, how you doing, creep? But that is there are those two sounds. That is the first one. There's a lot of detail that went into that specific, very Splatoon derivative sound. No, everything needs to be loud. Clip everything. Yeah, you got it. The other one is this kind of vocoder effect. This one right here, which you do hear also in Splatoon as well. That right, which, by the way, if we look into this thing, has the same exact kind of chain of effects. I actually didn't have that one on. Interesting. We'll turn that off. But so if I go here and turn all the effects off, the source of the sound is actually quite similar to the other squid sound. Right, that right. I just took that little chop up part, and I actually I took that chopping of the sound, and then I went through a vocoder. Now, a vocoder is a kind of a fancy vocal effect that you hear in a lot of music in general, but you may not realize it. Vocoder basically recontextualize. It takes the sound of a voice. I have to say it this way. It takes the sound of a voice and recontextualizes it where you can apply different pitch values to that voice. So this original sample is not the melody I went with. It's right? But I want the melody to go ba-ba-da, right? 1 second, with this effect. Right? That is what a vocoder does. And it's really I love using vocoders in many different ways. As I do more music streams, I will show you how much I use vocoders in pretty much everywhere in my music, because I think it's just such an important detail. I had to refresh stream. I swear, Twitch makes you refresh so you have to sit through that stupid fucking Adobe ad. Oh my god, I thought it was just me getting that ad. God damn. Right, so a vocoder is a very fantastic effect. I'm using Isotope's vocal synth right here, which is just a specific kind of vocoder, but pretty much every program in the universe has a vocoder effect. Hey Rob, thank you for the subscription. Oh, thank you, Matto, for giving subscription. You gave me, let's go. Thanks, man. Thanks, everyone. Be gone, ads. Ah, I'm wearing the Weeboo hat now. Oh my god. All right, let's go Weeboo. Weebio. All right, we're going Weebio. Let's go. God damn it. Hi, YouTube. How are you? DJ Square, how you doing? Good to see you. You just hosting it. This is the best time. It's new, so I had to. Imagine being Weebio. Yeah, imagine. God damn it. It ain't production, not the Weebio. But so, vocal synth is a great effect, or it's a great plugin for vocoders, because there's a lot in settings and presets and different values you can change. I won't go into that sauce right now, but basically with this, you can create a nice kind of robotic-y, kind of synthy effect. Right? I appreciate you, Square. Good to see you, man. And so at this point onward, like that is again, like this is the foundation, the roux, the body of the sound that kind of gets it to like 70% squid. And so like the first voice, we're just kind of cutting out the high end to kind of give it a little bit warmer, a little softer. Especially with vocoders. Vocoders are a pain in the ass to mix. They're a real pain in the ass, but if you can get to mix well, it's great. So that's why I have to cut off a lot of the high end. Dude, Vocosynth 2 is amazing. It sure is. I actually have Vocosynth 2, and for some reason I have not installed it on this computer. Oops. And once again, just like with the previous squid sound, we're using auto filter. Any kind of filter effect will create that squid effect. And there you go. Like, that's the sound. That's pretty close to Splatoon as far as I can gather. If someone can make it better, I would love to see it, because it's like pretty much like, it's pretty on point, I have to say so myself. So yeah, that's the sauce right there. Yeah, took me about a few days to kind of really nail it, but that's where I got. And so once again, like the other previous sound, we have the bit crush effect, we have the frequency shifter, right? And it's really up to you. If you want to make this sound yourself, it's really up to you. You can really go crazy and explore all the different characteristics or different styles you may want to flavor this thing. This is interesting for me because I was watching T-Lopes explaining on his channel how he does his songs in FL Studio, and you two have very distinct styles. Yeah, that's Dimitri. That's kind of the joy of producing, and also kind of, whenever someone is teaching music production, it's kind of this catch-22, because I'm teaching you, in essence, my methods that are really just my methods. And sure, sometimes I'll take a tip here from this producer or from this or that, but a lot of my approach and methodology, it's just me. No one does it exactly the way that I do it. And just like, other producers like RoboRob or DJ Square or other people, they have their approaches to how they produce, and it's uniquely them. That's kind of the joy of this. Like, we're kind of writing the Bible, as we present it to you, if that makes any sense at all. That's crazy as fuck. Holy shit. It's a lot of fun, honestly. And this is just years of practice and knowing the tools you have, and knowing, okay, if I hear this sound from Splatoon, how do I get from here to here? Like, what am I actually hearing? And that's just, that's just knowledge and memorizing effects and knowing what to do. But for anyone who just wants the quick, short, easy answer, this is how you get that squid sound, like pretty much as close as you can, without calling Daddy Nintendo himself, Daddy Weebio. How much time did it take you to create this amazing song? So I would say the song production and writing took me about a week, about 30 hours, and then another week of just kind of poking around, refining and tuning things here and there. I'm trying to not spend a lot of time on music, and I'm really trying to spend like a week on every song I make and nothing more, because I want to feel like I can make good songs and not just like dwell on them. A lot of producers have this habit of just like, spending months on one song, and to each their own. That's perfectly fine. But for me, I want to like get better at just like, here's an idea, I'm gonna go make that idea and not stress about the perfection of that idea. And that's how I find more joy in producing music this way. So yeah, that's about it. So like a week to 2 weeks, more or less, of the whole cycle of it. It's pure art. That's right. Squid music is art, baby. But so that's basically the bulk of how you make those sounds. Matt Zoe has that problem. Haha, bless him though. Yeah, a lot of producers have this problem. They just will spend 6 months on one song. It's like, oh man, that'd be so much pressure to have to spend so much time on a song. Major props to producers who work on albums. I don't think I could ever do an album, at least not right now. And so those are the two bulk of the sounds, the bulk sounds of the squid voices. And then here we have things like, squid harmonies, right? Squid harmonies. And so once again, we're using a thing, once again, we're using a vocoder effect to make that sound. So we're using Isotope's vocal synth. Oh yeah, squid harmony, right? So once again, with vocoders, you can add chords, right? So the voice is still the same, right? But with a vocoder, you can add chords to those voices in a synthetic way. Right? Your organization is very good because you work on your idea and then develop it. I'm trying. Writer, what program is this? This is Ableton Live. This is a digital audio workstation used to write music software. There's a bajillion kinds of programs out there. You do not have to use Ableton if you want to explore this kind of stuff. Actually, Square, it's 10. I'm not using 11. Because 11, I've been told, is buggy and a hot mess, and I'm waiting to just make sure everything's not a hot mess. Right, so over here, we have these chord values right here. Yep, very simple. And and over here we have that kind of like right? That like the way how the way how I've been really approaching my music is trying to keep like, so I have here like squid sound, right? Or drums or pianos and chords. I'm really trying to think of I'm trying to think of, you know, I have different channels for things. What really helped me in my production process is really approaching, okay, if this was one unified sound, treating it like if a real live squid was next to me singing this song exactly, what would they be doing and how would they be doing it? If you know what I'm saying, like, you think more horizontally like that. Like if there's a piano instrument, I'm imagining a piano player who's like jamming out on the spot to this song. And that helps me kind of contextualize like how I want to approach the writing. Does that make any sense at all? Vocoders are so cool. There's so many kinds and so many different controls. They're great. Vocoders are just endless creative ideas and possibilities, honestly. A Splatoon remix by you would be sick. I've done one, in fact. I did the credits music of Splatoon 1. It's called Show Me Dat Ink. You can find it on YouTube. Yeah. Right. And so that's pretty much, you know, the bulk of the squid sounds by and large. Like, what is this sound over here? Yeah, so like, for example, so like I'll unmute for a second and watch out for the loud music. Right, we have this, you know, the first section. Right. And so there's a difference here with those two different squid sounds. One has an effect called chorus on it. And this chorus effect, here it's called an ensemble effect. This is what creates kind of like a harmony of squids. All like, if there's 16 voices or 16 squids singing together, that creates this kind of effect. This kind of like... Versus... Right? One sounds singular, the other sounds, you know, as a chorus of squids. So that's why I use that chorus effect, or an ensemble effect in this case, to kind of create this kind of multi-squid party. James kidnaps a single team of my idol group. That's right. Reminds me of No Straight Roads. I hope so, because I kind of worked on it. I would think that two different squids would take the two different singing voices, the one high and one lower. They could though, right? I kind of do that with an effect on this instrument earlier, but you know, that's the thing. You could create two different channels of two different squids, one singing lower, one singing higher. I just decided to do a way where it's all in one channel. And that's production, baby. You can do a lot of different things. What is this thing right here? I did not use that sound at all. What is that sound? We're moving on. I don't know where that sound came from. And it's still on. Why was this thing on? I guess this was just an idea that I just left on the cutting room floor, but it's still here, so. What is the sound? I guess it works, but you can't even hear it. It's kind of there. It's super buried. I did not need to leave that in there. What is the sound? Okay, moving on. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, guys, did it solve me? I have no idea where this came from. It's true. Another squid. So this is like a squid effect, right? Which is basically just like the auto filter of the squid. That right? But I'm using a lot of reverb and delay effects right here. So we have the thing called Echo Boy, which creates that delay effect where it keeps going and going. It's a good effect using your productions. Definitely use it everywhere you can. Also have Crystallizer, which is this particular kind of reverby granular. I don't want to get into too much of the sauce of what Crystallizer is because it's kind of complicated. But it's a great effect. It creates just a little extra detail and a little spice, you know, a little parsley on your kind of reverby delay effect. Sound toys. It's great, man. I love sound toys. It's very important. But yeah, that is all of the squid sounds by and large. That is the squids in the rave. Obviously we have things like effects here, you know, like sweep sounds. Right, sweep sounds. Sweep sounds. Granular sounds are so cool to listen to, but I'll never understand them. You're not. I would say you're not supposed to understand them. They are a mystery in a box, and you kind of poke at that box until you get something good out of it. Now to just do sound effects. Yeah, so like, you know, FX stuff are not very interesting for here. It's just a bunch of sweep sounds. Sweeps are very important in music production when you want to fill out frequency space and kind of create a little more dynamic depth or frequency depth, I guess. Right? Like, I'll just to kind of show you how much a sweeps can elevate your song. I'm gonna turn them off actually. So this is with it off right now. Right, and that's fine. Like it doesn't sound bad, but to me, it's missing some kind of arc, some kind of movement to the song, if you will. That's what the FX off. The sweeps are now off, but now if I turn back on, you can, in my opinion, you can feel the song is moving. It's going somewhere. Right, it's going down. Now going up. Sweeps are really important to production, and I like to use them. Some producers don't even use them at all, and they're really talented to not do that. But it's for me, especially someone who's doing kind of more trancey, a little Eurobeat. It's a good habit to have sweeps that go down, sweeps that go up. It just really, that detail can go a long way to make a piece feel more alive and more, just a little more movement to it. It's really useful, and I use it everywhere, right? And you can layer sweeps, right? You can have like this one right here is a little, right? A little detail. But then you also have here like a more, like that's a little more like kind of birdie chirpy sweep, and this is a little more of like a regular normal like. Lazy Storm, how you doing? Good to see you. Right, so these sound effect layers can just really add a lot to a piece of music. It goes a long way. So don't ignore the details in your productions. Those details can really, that extra 5 to 10% in your production can just really elevate to the next level. And you'll be like, wow, this feels so much better now just by adding a sweep sounds. You can feel it. That is, in my opinion, that is, I think, a lot of the importance of production is understanding how to make a listener feel something without actually noticing it. I want someone to feel the sweeps, not notice the sweeps. If that, and that's not a black and white case in point or black and white situation, of course, but it goes a long way. I'm doing a lot of details in here to make you feel a certain way that I don't want you to necessarily notice. Gotta leave now. Sorry, we'll be busy. That's fine. Good to see you, Sayu. James using Ableton. I thought, never mind. Nope, I've been using Ableton forever, but I've used everything. Reason. I've even used FL. I've used Reaper even. Yep, it's all over the place. So sweeps are really important. Do not ignore your sweeps where they make sense. For some reason, I have another channel called come on, computer. I have another channel called Squid Effects. And this is like more like processing. So for example, if we have this squid sound up here, come on, squid, you can do it. If we have this effect, right, we have that sound. I also want to kind of simulate the other direction. And so I do this with a thing called with my Squid Effects channel, where I'm taking basically taking, like, imagine if I made a squid sound into a sweep. Does that make sense at all? This is very subtle. And so what I did was I took this sound, and then I reversed it. I actually literally did it in reverse, and then I put some reverb on it, and then that's this result, right? And this, once again, thinking about things you can feel but not necessarily notice, because this just adds so much more dynamic depth. right? This goes a long way in music production. It is so important. Reverse effects are used everywhere, more than we realize. They're great. They're awesome. Yeah, I did my Sunshine remix like 8 years ago in Reaper. That's right. Yep. And so when you put it all together, like if I put just the squid voices and this effects together, right? And you can feel it. It just goes a long way. So it just so much more depth in just the intro of the sequence, because the intro of the song is fairly kind of fragmented, and not fragmented. It's kind of it's just kind of starting. We're not going anywhere yet. And so if the music writing is just kind of this like one thing, right? We're just kind of chilling. We're vibing. So if the composition of the song is pretty, is I don't want to say like stable. It's just kind of, it's just starting somewhere. We're at foundation, I guess. If something is staying in one place, I want other things to move, so that way it never feels static to the ear. That's why I have all these effects in the beginning, to really make the piece move and go somewhere. I'm glad to hear, Dimitri. You should. Music production is a journey. I'll say that much. But if you find enjoyment in this, if you find enjoyment in the process, you will, I think, be very rewarded in what you invest in with music. It's a lot of fun. I've been doing this for 15 years now, so it's really been a joy. I'll say that much. So other things here in my Squid effects, also you have the voice that goes, right? Like that's just like little vocal one shots. Those are pretty straightforward. Nothing too fancy. I also have little details here where there's like, some like hey chant, like a little, right? Like Squid saying hey, right? And you can tell here in this hey effect, it has all the usual suspects of, the Squid voices, the EQ cut, the auto filter, the bit crush, the frequency shifter, right? Just a little detail that goes a long way. And if I put it, and you can kind of see it, or hear it, like if I click play with the whole track. Just a little detail. If I turn it off, right? It's not bad, but it's missing some little space. Just a little detail goes a long way with filling out space in your music. This reminds me of oblique motion and counterpoint, and now I wonder how else that could be applied in non-pitch things. I think I understand what you're saying, and yes, I think that a practice can be applied here. Music production, especially dance music, I think is a little bit more less structured, or less theories or rules about what is good production. But I think those principles can be applied. Oblique motion, yeah. Now I just need to finish my songs. I feel that, man. I feel that very hard. Took me a long time to get used to write music in like a week. Like on a structural like level, like accepting like I'm going to make the song in 1 week. That's it. Period. Kind of energy. Because like you, I used to be stuck like spending months on music and never releasing them. So yeah, that's pretty much the Squid sounds and all the effects and all the tricks and doodads and nougads of how that works. Like I said, it took me a few days to figure out, but it wasn't too bad overall. This thing over here called SE trigger is called Sidechain. Sidechain is what creates that pumping effect, and if you noticed it over here in this thing right here, right? Ableton 10. That pumping effect, that is from a thing called Sidechain. Sidechain is what allows you to create the pumping effect. I'm using a thing called FL Tool. As you can see here, this is basically volume, and so every time you see this kind of thing moving, this is the basis of basically all dance music. Pretty much every dance music and most music in general these days uses some form of sidechain to create that pumping effect. And that pumping effect is used for mixing purposes and also to give room to the kick, also to create some sense of groove. Sidechain is very important. Definitely do it. And so I have, what I have it set up is a MIDI trigger, or a MIDI, basically I have it so that way every time this note value plays, it triggers that effect. So I have control over when I want pumping and when I don't want pumping. When do you want the pumps? When you don't want the pumps. That's up to you. You are the pump master. As opposed to the pump slave. Music joke. Okay. That's so stupid. Be at the point though, I was experimenting with other pumping effects, and so this sidechain too. We don't need that. When you produce an 808s, do you sidechain with the kick or let him smack by himself? That's a good question. I tend to sidechain, but because I think I'll eventually have more control over my kick and my subs. But I know producers who don't do that as well. I think it's really up to you. I like to have the kick pump the subs or the 808s. I like that separation. But that might be also be why my hip-hop predictions aren't that good. So, to each their own. I am not an expert on anything with 808s. That's for sure. Yeah, let's talk about drums for a second. Or for a few minutes, actually. Drums are pretty straightforward. We got kicks here. We got grooves here. Nothing fancy. I'm not sure what to really go into about drums. But, you know, drums in this track are pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of complicated things. It's really just all done in the mixing and figuring out, you know, like just mixing the kick to kind of punch enough, getting the snare and the clap to kind of punch enough, right? One thing I do that I like doing lately is having my kick and my snare all in one group right here. It's called a kick clap group. And so, because for me, especially in dance music, you want your kicks and claps to be in the forefront of a mix. And so by grouping it this way, I can then kind of just kind of have more control over how much I want that group to be. And this is that's more advanced techniques of music production, right? So those are the drums. Tomoya Otani uses a lot in sonic music. What do you mean exactly? Like, yeah, I mean, drums are used everywhere. I'm not sure what you mean by what he does exactly, though. You know, a thing that I tend to do a lot in my dance music is have this kind of A-B column response in my songwriting. Right, where you have like the... Right, this A-B effect. And so when you're doing A-B stuff, it's good to have your instruments or ensembles of sounds also mimic that A-B style. And so, right, like over here, I have, in the drums, I have a rim for the A part. Just 1 second. Rim. Right, back to A. Oops, sorry about that. Just whacked my microphone. Right, and so when you're thinking about your music, you want to always think about, like once again, if there's a live drummer next to me, what is that live drummer doing, actually? Instead of thinking like, oh, I want the rim here, and I want the groove here, and I want the kick here, think of it more as a real player. I think you'll get better results this way. Do I mentor teach? I do, yeah. So on my Discord, I'm happy to give feedback and, you know, listen to artists' music if they want it. You know, teaching, I don't do too much because I don't have time for it, unfortunately. But yes, I do like to help people. That is absolutely true, Technical. Good to see you, by the way. Wow, you only nested a call and response on drums when you point it out. Neat stuff. Yeah, like, you know, to me, I think it's pretty, you know, it's just what I'm saying. Like, listeners don't realize it. Producers are like magicians. We have to we want to show you something that we want you to feel, but we don't want you to notice it. It's like magician stuff. If you know how magic works in actuality. And that's really all it kind of comes down to. The drums, nothing really fancy at all. It's very straightforward stuff. So that's drums. Let's talk about these pianos. So I have two pianos here. I have a piano that is actually Ableton stock, which some people will be like, what? Yeah, so there's two pianos here. One is the Ableton stock sound that I use with OTT, which is a really great plugin. You should absolutely use it. It's used on literally everything. If you're someone who's like, I love my poultry seasoning on all my meat, you use it. That's OTT. OTT is the poultry seasoning you put on all your meat because you don't know what else to put on your meat to make it taste good. That's OTT. And if I turn OTT off, it's completely different. It's dull. It's not bright, and that's not a bad thing, but for this, it's not what I want. I want brightness. I want punchy, and OTT can do that. It's a little more, it kind of just pushes it to the front, right? And on top of that, I also want that classic M1 Korg piano sound. It's a little more synthetic. It's a little less realistic sounding. It's a little more like that classic dance 90s piano sound that you get in pretty much every classic dance record. Right? And if you layer both... Hey, Kid Banshee, thanks so much for the follow. Let's go, GameCube. If you layer both, this is the result you get. Sky, thank you for the GameCube. Appreciate it. Right, and so that's how you get both that fullness from the regular piano. Hey, Technical, thank you for the GameCube. I appreciate it. Right, the realistic piano sound and then the dancey synthetic sound. Sometimes I do. Actually, yeah. So in this one, I use a filter delay, go to create that effect. Because without it, it's very mono. Right, it's totally different. So I use a filter delay to kind of create that stereo imaging. Right, and so therefore when you put everything together, it's a wide, full sound. Yep, pretty straightforward stuff. It's piano stuff, by and large. Let us go to chords next. And by the way, if anyone has questions, chat's already doing it, but if you have specific questions or you need more elaboration, please let me know in the chat so I can properly address them. So here we have things like chord values, or not chord values, sorry. We have the chord stem. This is where all like my synth sounds are, like the synths of like chords and harmonies, which apparently are not even on the thing. That's annoying. Let's do this. Here we go. So this is a pretty standard saw filter pad. Once again, thinking about like if a live synth player was next to me and was jamming out to this song, what would they want to do? If the groove was like da 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 da, right? I want that synth to also mimic that same groove. Technical, I will do that. Yes, I will go into the more songwriting specific parts after I go through each instrument. And so we see right here, if you can tell in this value, this is basically a filter automation. This is what creates that kind of filter sound is opening up. We go from a very muted sound gradually into a full open bright sound. Filters are very important. Absolutely use them. We go up. Because we're kind of creating that tension to release. We're building up. Right? We're going up and back down. Very common, very standard energy in dance music. Right, and so basically, a lot of synth and sound design writing is kind of understanding what values you want to control and how you manipulate them to get the desired sound. And that sounds kind of vague and jargony, so excuse me. Right, but so in this intersection where I want to have movement, the filter will create that movement. Versus when we're in the verse section, which is... I don't need that movement anymore, so I want just that steady, bright sound. Right? And in the drop, the same idea. Oh, come on. You want that movement, and you can tell too. Not only is there movement in the frequencies or in the kind of sound itself, but also in the writing. I'm doing the but up, right? Because I want that jump. I want that groove to mimic the feeling of that dance groove that I've kind of carved out. Right? It just adds so much additional groove and movement and feel to it. Do you use a filter native in the plugin or a VST, or do you have a separate filter for bringing those effects? The answer is both. So usually I like to stay native to the plugin, but there are cases where I use actually DJM filter, which I think I did here. And when I find it, I'll point it out to you. Go. But I do both for different purposes when it makes most sense. One thing I always wondered is, at what point do you consider a song finished? I feel like there would be always something I want to add, but I feel like maybe it's become too much when you would stop. That's a good question, and this is why, Perjury, I like to feel like I can finish a song in a week, because at the end of the day, you're right. There really is no point to when a song is done, and I think it takes practice to finish it takes practice to emotionally accept the song is now done, especially when it's on your own terms and not on a deadline term. So for me, it's to me, when I listen to the song and I feel good from start to finish, I feel good. I feel like my thoughts were represented properly. But more importantly, Perjury, to get a little bit more kind of more concreteness, these markers up top where it says intro, verse, drop, variants, whatever. These are song structure markers that I add in before I even write anything, and I do this to create structure. In this way, I know this is when the song will end. This is when the song is finished, when I get to the end part, before I do anything, because I need to know that information before I start something. Hey, Lutic, how you doing? Good to see you. I was actually watching your videos the other day. I was watching some Guy Fieri vids of your dubs. Good to see you, man. Shit's so funny, dude. Making views is very much a mental process. It sure is. I mean, the whole thing is mental, right? But it's a mental and emotional. It's pretty intense. It can be pretty intense. Some people are very just kind of like floaty and kind of like not whatever, but they're more relaxed and more like exploratory. I am more focused and more, pinpoint, like we're going to make this sound and do this thing with that thing. Good, man. Just come to watch your skills at work. At worst. Yeah. Fucking how correct. Amazing. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for stopping by. Right, so that is that synth sound by and large. That synth is designed to create movement in the piece of music. I'm also layering, while I have this kind of synth wavy sound, I'm also layering with a very bright saw wave pad. Very Eurobeat. This is Eurobeat, baby. And I'm doing this layering to make this section feel bigger, right? So, because in the first section, we have the. Now we want. Right, this saw bright sound I have down here just fills out that high end so much more. Because with this sound, it has that movement, but it doesn't have that brightness. By the way, a good kind of reference point of kind of checking how your song feels is that I can solo. Like if I press play, with just these two, like the saw bright and the saw filter channels, and I play back and it feels groovy, that's a good sign. That's a really, really good sign that your groove is locked in, that shit feels good, right? Because I could do that. I could do the piano part. Like you can feel groove, right? If I play the chords by itself, you still feel the groove. That's how you know we're in a good spot. How do you go about writing the chords? I will also get to that in a little bit technical, because that's a very important part of the process. Is like chord voicings and piano stuff. And you know, to be honest, I can't get too in depth in that because a lot of it involves theory. But I'll do my best. I will do my best to go into how I approached the theory behind it. So in layering, do you think of them like multiple players living apart, or like one player that sounds like a big instrument? Usually it's more the latter. I like to think of it as one player playing a big instrument, and the reason why is that if we from understanding how our ears work when we perceive music, our brains can only really process 4 or 5 sounds at a time, or 4 or 5 different ideas at a time. And so, so even though I have chords and piano here, you could kind of, for mixing purposes, that's how they're separated. But in truth, you could really see it as one singular idea. Right, it's musically one idea. Even though there's like little details underneath, you're processing it as one fundamental idea. So you have the pianos here, you have the squid voice. That's 2 ideas, right? And then you have drums. Right? And then you have the bass. Right? And that is, so our brains are processing 4 or 5 instruments given. Even though there's like technically 50 different channels playing at once right now, that's not the point. The point is, how many ideas do I have in my song at one time? And that's a good way. If you're someone who has too many ideas, that's a good way of filtering out, like, okay, what sounds are important, or what sounds are unified, or are there instruments that can do a different idea? So like, yeah, I could have technically like in a past life, I would have done something kind of stupid and written a completely different piano line that a piano player is doing versus what the chord player is doing, so to speak. And that's where you can get into trouble. But that's why they're very similar, if not identical, because I want this idea of chords to be the same thing. Right? So that's pretty much how I'm approaching that sense. You know, obviously I have chords here. I have the chords right here. One good thing is... sorry. One thing I do here that's kind of sneaky is I'm creating this echo effect. This is a tool called echo, otherwise a delay effect of some kind on any plugin you use or program you use. This just creates, once again, when an instrument enters, you know, here, especially in dance music, if you want like a big room feel, you want to also think about, how does a song leave the track? It just has this nice tail, this nice little like kind of shimmer, like, okay, I'm gonna leave now, but don't forget about me. You know what I'm saying? Like if I turn this off, like it goes away and you're like, oh wait, but where'd you go? But with the echo effect, it just kind of lingers, and it really it fills out that void in a nice, gentle way. And the reason why is because when I'm doing the build, right, it just has this nice, gentle touch, a gentle brush, if you will. This is also very important details if you want that effect. So that's pretty much, you don't want to step out of nowhere. And sometimes you do, by the way. Sometimes you do. It's really up to you when you need that. I feel like I use delay like hot sauce. I feel like I should in everything. You should. It's great hot sauce. It's Frank's, baby. Because like over here, Dimitri, like I'm not using delay in this. I'm actually very quick and dry. I'm like in, out. Right? So you don't always want that delay there if you don't want that effect. But here, I really want it in the build versus the drop. The trick is if your chord is gonna come in and come out, in theory, you should have something else fill in that gap, right? Because we have the chords and then the synth, the synth melodies coming in. You could almost see that as its own micro A-B of like chord, da 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 da, chord, da 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 da, right? Because I want to have this whole idea filled out. There's no empty space in this moment. So yeah, that's the chord stuff. Push the chord energy right here. Yeah, so it takes a little the punchiness is just layers of processing by and large that I feel like would be very micro specific to explain in actuality. But by and large, yeah, like the punchiness comes from the combination of the kick and the sidechain and the big chords and the bass. It's a lot. This is where dance music can get difficult because it's kind of like a lot of little 5% pieces of things, and you're hopeful that it will make this effect that hits the listener in such the right way. It's a lot of fine tuning and practice, and that's not always a fun answer to say out loud, but it's the truth, I think, by and large. Absolutely, the sidechain does make a big difference, 100%. Strings here were kind of like a little idea I had when I was exploring ideas in the song. I never really went anywhere with it outside of it. I wish I had live string players because I probably would do more with strings in that sense. But I took this loop that I had in a library and I kind of chopped it up, you know. Right, it's just a simple loop, nothing fancy. If I go into my browser, is it even here? No, it's not. If I type in ODS, let's see is it here? I'll go to all effects, ODS, ODS 10A, 114. Is it gonna play or no? Ah, come on, Ableton. Yes, Function does that a lot, and we have the same libraries. Yeah, so that loop is the source loop, and I chopped it up and did a little processing. These are actually, Dimitri, those are the exact same strings that Funk Fiction uses. We use the same library for that. By the way, good little pro tip for producers. If you want, like, so these strings on their own are kind of loose. They're kind of loose sounding, but I use this effect that is unfortunately Ableton only. But you can get the same effect with a thing called a transient shaper. Transient shaper plugin, definitely go look into that. It's great. This drum bus has a transient shaper effect on it, which will make the strings a little tighter. I sure do, Technical. Right, I don't know if you can tell the difference immediately. I'm gonna turn the drum bus off. The strings are looser now. But with the effect on, it's a little bit tighter, a little bit punchier. It just kind of cuts a little more. Because when we think of things being punchy, what makes something feel punchy is actually the change in time, the change over time, if you will. Like, it's that punch and then how it dips out. But, right? And something doesn't usually feel punchy without that dip in frequency or dip in value. So that's why I had that effect to make it a little punchier this way. What library are those strings? That is called Disco Strings. I believe from Big Fish. It's called Disco Strings. Skrillex has actually used it. If you know the song Roughneck Bass, those strings are actually from Disco Strings library. Fun fact. But yeah, strings, very straightforward. Nothing really going on. It's just strings. Same thing here. I have a synth riser here that's kind of just an exploratory idea that I left in the song. Yeah, are you ready for the Roughneck Bass? Yeah, those are the strings from that song. It's like the same library. I won't find it right now, but it's like, oh, it's literally the same exact strings. Synthesizers, very straightforward things for sound design. You know, I have a plugin called Vital, which is a very great synth plugin, and all you're doing is automating the pitch values. You're automating the pitch value of a sound, and then it just goes up, right? If I go into my MIDI clip and I go here it is. The pitch. This is a pitch wheel, and it just goes up. Oh yeah, dude, I love Splice. I use it on everything. Like literally everything. It is a godsend for all my productions. I use it here in this song, I think, on certain sounds or samples. Absolutely. Synthesizers are straightforward. It honestly could have been the FX channel, but I was lazy and didn't organize it. Let's talk about bass. Bass is a fun spot to be in too. A good similar on the effects discussion earlier, where I was like, movement is important. You also want to think about sub movement, right? So sub basses are used pretty much everywhere in dance music of all kinds, and that's why sub basses are really good. Once again, felt not heard, because right here, if we play the song in the beginning, it just has this body in the low end to really just kind of like it's like it's moving. Sub bass drops, sub drops are really useful. All these felt moments just add to the whole polish and detail of a song. It just really just fills the whole thing out a little more. Very important. I have a thing called a DDR bass because it's inspired by my joy of trance and DDR music, or Eurobeat, I guess. It's pretty straightforward, kind of thin sounding even, and that's okay because, you know, this is the verse section. The verse section doesn't need to be this full epic thing, and so I don't mind having a little bit of less body in my verse section compared to the drop, for example, because I want that contrast. Dude, Eurobeat's the shit. I love Eurobeat, and I will continue making more Eurobeat influenced music. It's so good, dude. I love it. I've always loved it, and I embrace it even more now. Right, like you can tell, like this pluck is not as meaty as if you're familiar with the song, this verse section became the kind of second drop section in the end, and so there's a difference between this bass versus the second drop of the same song structure. I'll bring the DDR pad. Come to October. Hell yeah. Right, that bass has a lot more meat, a lot more grit to it, because I want that additional foundation for the drop of the second section. Even though they're the same exact song section or songwriting. Right? It's a little different. These contrasts go a long way when you're thinking about a song in a contextual, like, intensity chart. Like if I were to ask you, listen to your favorite song and on a graph, draw an intensity chart where you feel most excited and then least excited, or most intense or most intense and least intense. In theory, especially in dance music, that's a good way of kind of thinking how you want your song to feel, because in most cases you need that contrast. Even for genres like tech house or otherwise ambient music that are much more like, you know, I don't want to say static, but more horizontal, not as much as intense changes. There still will be subtle changes in theory that accomplish this, and this is not some like big rule, but it goes a long way. This sounds familiar. I think Paul Robinson talked about intensity charts in one of his interviews too. Yep, it's a good rule. It's a good rule, or not a good rule. It's a good reference point of how you should think about your song's big picture. The macro level, if you will. The macro is the intensity chart, and the micro is like all these instruments and these lines to create that intensity effect of how I want it to be. That's music, and that's, I think, a real trick of music production is, you know, not only wearing different kinds of hats, but also having different mental processes of those hats. Because, you know, when I listen to a song, there are times where I need to listen to the details, and there's times where I need to listen to that big picture. And turning that brain on or off in different ways can be difficult without some practice. Kings and Queens by 30 Seconds of Mars is my favorite song of all time, and the reason why is for how well the buildup is. Yep, that intensity chart is the end-all, be-all. You know, however you accomplish it is up to you, but that is a key thing. It's very important. So over here in the drop, I'm doing a lot of layering. Once again, thinking about grooves for a moment. When the drop hits, you know, when the drop hits, it's good to think about how things move, and so that's why in this bass sound you have kind of like this sweeping pitch, kind of scooping sound. Boo wow, right? Because by having that kind of scoop in the pitch, it kind of lifts you up. It's like a boo wow. Because the groove of the song is what, so you literally want to draw in that scoop, what, right? And then same thing here on the B section, or the A B of it, like the bass goes down again, the kind of where is it? Right, we go back down because we go. Bow up, bow, because it goes up and back down, and that manipulation of music writing and sound pitch is once again reinforces the groove, if you will. It just really makes the bass more active. It makes your whole production sound more dynamic, more interesting. It goes a long way. Right? And ironically, not ironically, but I guess to kind of contrast all that movement, in the what I call the variance section, I actually don't want a lot of movement, because there's a ton of movement in the drop, right? And then this bass section over here, right? And that lack of movement can also be a benefit to you when you want that contrast. We're going from, you know, like that contrast of two, three, four. Contrast is so important on almost every principle when you're producing music. How do you go about these embellishments from a songwriting point of view? What do you mean by embellishments? Can you elaborate on that word a little more? I think I know what you mean, but I just want to be sure. Reminds me of the Hotline Miami soundtrack. A little bit, because there's a little bit of synthwave inspiration in here. I can totally see that. Makes sense. But by and large, you know, I'm not going to go right now, unless you want to know how I made a certain sound. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of how each sound is made. I just want to kind of provide concepts and best practices of how I approach the music writing here. And now we get to a fun part called the drop synths, which for some reason I had the guitar in this channel, but you know, that's for mixing purposes. But you know, we have the guitar. Come on, computer, you can do it. I believe in you. Come on. Right, just additional extra details to give a little bit of groove, a little bit of an idea. It's pretty straightforward. It's guitar writing, you know. And I grabbed it from Splice, actually. Yeah, it's a splice loop that I just chopped up. Little details. And you'll notice, once again, I chopped the guitar up so that it lines up with the piano and the chords. Very important is that, once again, you don't want too many ideas. Just because I have a guitar in one thing and a piano thing and a chord in another thing doesn't mean they should all have different ideas. Sure, there'll be little details in the actual playing, but for the emphasis of the notes, that goes a long way. So you still have like the you know, you still have the da 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 da. That's the idea. The little details in the middle can be, you know, kind of, you know, kind of spiced up however you want to do it, but the details, the main kind of meat of that idea. Even in even in these like saw chords. Just goes a long way. Which notes voicings do you pick to embellish, and how would you go about adding that type of musical flair to the emphasis of several notes? The unfun answer is that it's really specific. It's really specific to the situation. How about adding that type of musical flair? Because at the end of the day, there's no, it's like, this is where having a musical theory hat can be kind of a detriment when you're writing dance music, because a lot of the time you have to, of course, you need to turn your music theory brain on. Like, so like, you know, hey David, how you doing? Good to see you. Right, so this is where the theory comes in, of course. But a lot of that nitty-gritty of like the da-da, you know, if we think about motivic writing, that's the motif of the song is da-da, da-da, da. And the, you know, like the vocal does it, the chords do it. So I think to answer your question of embellishment, it's about identifying your motifs. And motifs are the very basicest ideas. That's the English word, basicest, right? But like the vocal does it. Which is da-da, 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 right? You hear that everywhere in every little detail. It's everywhere in my song. But this is like one of those things that's super duper felt and not noticed to the listener, because when I'm writing a song, I'm kind of teaching the listener what to care about and what to focus on. And so you do that through, in a musical sense, you do that through motivic writing. So the motif of the song is da-da or da-da, da-da. That's just a simple, stupid simple motivic idea. But if I put it everywhere, your brain is gonna identify it and you're gonna pick up on it. And if you do your job well, it'll actually work really, really well. Yeah, it's like you have to know the rules so that you can break them. Exactly. Kind of. So motivic writing goes just like, again, if you just hear that da-da or da-da and you listen to the song again, you'll just notice it everywhere. Very important. So the drop synths instrument ideas are not really present until the drop section of the song. Right, so I made the squid sound, like it's called a squid synth, and that's a kind of like wow, 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 wow. I made that with Vital. I used right here, and that is a lot of just sound design and trial and error. That's from this comb filter right here. I'm using an LFO to kind of create that. This is getting to the nitty gritty. This is kind of advanced level like production ideas. Well, yeah, because there's no bass right now, right? This is just the drop synth of Volcanic, right? You know, because this is just the drop synths. I have it separated between that and the bass. If we put the bass with it, you'll see it kind of comes together. Right. That's how we go about this. Is that you have to, once again, all of these synths and ideas are layered to that thing. Everything just filled out. It needs some more fill out the bass. Well, by the way, like, I also mastered the song. This is not the actual mix, so don't get too much caught on the actual mix of the thing. You get my point though. Like, the ideas are here. Yeah. My favorite detail about a song is how you use the environmental sounds, especially in the game soundtrack, like the sirens and the Star Squid Rave, AJ-wise. Yes, the environmental sounds are just, like I said, like they're the spice, they're the details. They go a long way. Right, this rave sound is just an extra flavor of layer, right? Because I knew the idea what I want in the song. When I was kind of conceptualizing it, I wanted this kind of like bow 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 ba ba da 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 da. Like that's the groove. And so I layered that with some rave stabs, which by the way I love. I love making rave stabs. So I made the sound to mimic the bass idea. Right? Yeah, it's great. You hear that a lot in dance music, and I love it. Rave stabs are the best. Right? It's really nice. And that effect, I can't unfortunately show you specifically because I rendered it out and did a certain thing. But yeah, chromatic chords. I use them all the time. They're great. This drop melody idea is like 3 instrument layers. You have these chiptune sounds. I'm using a thing called Chip Sounds, which is the plugin. It's Mac and PC. It's great. It's very good for chiptune. Like if you want authentic chiptune sounds without getting an actual Game Boy. And I layered it in with some kind of body with the synth right here. Sorry, body here. Right? This is where we get into kind of some kind of counterpoint writing. Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to be authentic here. I'm just trying to give you for 99% of the world, you will hear chiptune. I know that sounds like video games, right? That's the goal. That's all that matters to me, right? This is technical. This is where we go into that kind of like counterpointy like idea writing. Right? It's like, and it's all just kind of specific to what you want. But here I'm like, okay, I want that perfect fourth, like that if you want harmonies to move down, then back up. You know, you're not doing parallel fifths if you can help it. Right? Because here we have the sixth, then we go down to the third. Dimitri, I have, and yeah, it's a good song. I dig it. And you can notice again in terms of the songwriting part of it, this writing of the melody is almost exactly the same to the squid sounds, like the squid melody. Right? It's like so this is where the songwriting really lines up. It all lines up nicely, both from a musical perspective and also a writing perspective, because the ideas, the motivic ideas here are just literally littered all over the song. That is what makes a song catchy. When people ask me about like how do you make good melodies, or how do you do catchy writing, the answer is always motivic writing, and then learning how to create variability in that motivic writing. The motif is da 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 da, right? It's that one singular idea that I'm just creating just enough variability. It's the king of song. Oh, the key of song is in B minor. It's in B minor. B minor, you could say D major, but it's structured in B minor. How to get the chip sound to clip without causing interference in the chords, or just clip with the intervals? What do you mean by clip? Like, do you mean like the literal clipping, like distortion clipping, or like what do you mean exactly? It could be the OTT. Yeah. Is it OTT? Nope, it's OTT. Saturn, right here. Saturn is actually adding some distortion. Just a little bit of a little crunch to it. I probably should have EQ'd it because there's a little bit of a low end I'm noticing, but oops. This is once again, I made this in a week to 2 weeks because the whole point is that I'm not trying to get too caught up in the details. And that's how it is. I'm trying to aim for 80% to 85% polish, perfection, I guess. I am not striving for 100% perfection. So even as I go through this with you guys, even I'm noticing like, oops, I shouldn't have left that in. Oops, I should have done that. And that's okay. That's the whole point, right? Even when Volcanic says like, oh, this could be a little like thicker here. Like, yeah, maybe he's probably right. But I finished it and it's done and I'm okay with that. I'm not here to be perfect. And I think that's a very important message, more importantly than spending months and months on a song to get that perfection. And we're wondering, like, agonizing, like, why can't I get the sound right? No, this is all personal music. Most of the time I won't be able to do commission video game stuff because of the legality of it. But I'll be doing, because I've written a lot of personal music in the past few months, I'll be showing off that stuff as much as I can. Hating Splatoon's OST gives me life. This works a little better than most of the general OST. Sure, I mean, I like the OST. I actually like it a lot. It's a unique characteristic thing, so I get that. But yeah, that's basically the whole, just talking about the instruments involved. This is kind of like all of the sauce of how every instrument is laid out and made. I don't know if you guys have any questions more specifically. I know some people have questions about the songwriting portion, and I'll get to that next. One of the strangest things in a song I noticed is how the final boss song in Splatoon 2 uses a sample from Superman. It could very well be from it. Like, it's not that they sampled Superman, but they probably sampled the same library that came from that game, because a lot of video games use the same libraries. Enderlord, thank you for the GameCube. Appreciate it. Here's my question. What do you think of Yuzo Koshiro as a video game composer? Fantastic. Outstanding. Streets of Rage 3 is one of the best examples, if not the best example, I think, of FM synthesis in a video game. He's fantastic. Some people hate on Streets of Rage 3. I see it as an incredible kind of piece of music, or piece of body of work that honestly has aged better than most FM music. Yeah. It's where I know him from, even beyond Streets of Rage. I see. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with his work, but that's how I feel about him. It's very good. So I'm gonna go into the songwriting now of the song. And once again, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to post them in the chat. So let's talk about the song structure, right? So we have the intro, the verse, build, drop, variants, blah, blah, blah. I love all 4 Streets of Rage. I actually haven't played the 4 Streets of Rage yet, Lunatic. I need to do that. I need to get on that. And I hear the soundtrack's very good. But yeah, so the way how I approach the song from a songwriting lens, and kind of as a preference, I like songs that are shorter than longer. I don't like songs that are. It's very rare for me to fully like a song that's 4 minutes long or longer, and that's not just like a millennial TikTok thing. That was the case with me when I was 13 years old as well, and that was actually, if anything, caused by Dance Dance Revolution and rhythm game length, as I called it, where most DDR music back then was like 1:30 to 2 minutes. And this is how I liked to listen to my music, like kind of short, bite-sized pieces of music that explore an idea and then get out. There's not a lot of fat left to trim off. And so this is how I structured it. The song is only 2 minutes, 45 seconds, and that's exactly where I want it to be. I'm trying to aim for all my songs under 3 minutes, because if I can make a good piece of music that's under 3 minutes, it means that I'm getting all my ideas down. I'm getting all my ideas down without any bloating, not padding. It's dense. And I like that kind of production. I like that kind of dense writing that gets to the point. That's reflective of me as a person. That's reflective of my style of music. So that's why the song is structured this way. And that intensity arc is going to be pretty quick and drastic all over the place for that reason. Because I want, if I'm going to make something, if I'm going to have a lot of ideas in the song in under 3 minutes, I got to make sure the intensity map reflects that, that change. And you can even tell it right from the get-go. Like in the intro, we're already building up. And we're going down. And now we're back to the middle. Now we're back up. Now we're going down. But it's a quick down. we're moving really quick, in and out. We're going up, down, this and that. This is the pacing that I like. It's exciting, it's energetic, it's lively. This is what I want, and that's total preference, by the way. This is not like what I think is like the best way of writing music. It's just me. James, when working on a different soundtrack for a different game, with different composers, what exactly is the process of choosing, for example, a stage song and a performer? What do you mean by like choosing? Like they tell me to write the stage song and then I just make it, right? Like I don't write songs and then put it into the level. That's not unheard of, but that is very abnormal to write music that way. It's always, here is the level, here is the boss, or here is this. Go write music for that. And I say, okay. It's amazing in regards to the things I disagree with you on a creative level, and yeah, I love that. It shows how different everyone thinks of music, and I love that. Absolutely. Like, and that's the thing at the end of the day. Like, this is, if there's one thing that I've gotten much, I don't want to say better at, but one thing I've really come to terms with is like, the music I'm writing now is very true to me, not just as a musician, but as a person. This is how I wish everyone could digest music, and this is the idea that I want to put on the world. Of course, if you don't want it that way, that's perfectly fine. There's a lot of great music that is, not this, but like for me, this is just my expression of what I like music to be, and that's what it should be at the end of the day. I'm actually gonna take the hat off because I'm tired of being weebio. Let's get out of the hat for a second. Ugh, I'm free. Okay. Right. So talking about the musical ideas here. Oh, you jerk. God damn it. At least I'm not weebio. All right. But so let's talk about the writing for a second. So I'm gonna can I pull up a piano real quick? I mean, I do have an instrument right here. Right. So, come on. Let me take it off. Come on. My head hurts. My head does hurt a lot, actually. Oh God. Whatever. All right, back to music. I guess this is my fate. Right, the piano's a little quiet. Please excuse me. But so when I was approaching writing this song, I'm gonna turn off the reduce latency and then delay compensation. When we think about emotional intensity in music, the good I can't talk. When we're thinking about music writing and songwriting, you always want to think about generally like if how there's tension and how there's release. And with music theory, this is very much the case. So the song's in B minor, right? This chord is now our like root chord. This is the chord that makes us feel at home. And I'm thinking I'm communicating this very simple. Sorry, my head's all over the place. We're thinking very simplistically here. I don't want to get too complicated in what it could also be, because for now we're in B minor. This chord is B minor, and so in order to get to B minor, like this is our like steady chord. Now, if we want to go say elsewhere, if we want to have some kind of movement, we can kind of go to different chord values here, like G. And so you're saying, well, I like this G chord. How can I get to the B chord? We do that with movement. G, A. And for those of you who don't know, this is for like music theory purposes. This is a flat 6, flat 7, 1. This is a very standard progression of chord writing. You hear it literally everywhere. But I don't want to think of it as flat 6, flat 7. I want to think of it as we're starting somewhere, we're going somewhere. Now we're in here now. You feel me? This is the B minor chord is the chord where we're back at home. The G chord is where we went somewhere. And now we want to make sure we get, I think we're going back to. That's the principle of songwriting, how I want to approach this. And when you put that style of writing all over the place in this piece of music, it's going to be a lot of emotional movement. Because it's going to be a lot of da-da, da-da, da. Chord sticky. But, right, I have that little change in variation. Like, it's a little different, But now we're back home. This is the emotional intensity movement when you're thinking about chord writing. And that's basically the whole song in a nutshell. It's just that very simple idea. I'm not going anywhere crazy. You know, even when I had that little change up where it goes to G, A, B, and then I go to the E. That's still a principle of this thought. Like, because even with this E chord, I'm going to go back to. That's the whole idea. So when I'm thinking about music writing from a songwriting, chord writing lens, it's really about, okay, knowing what chord makes you feel at home, what chords do I want to venture off to, and then come back to. And then everything in between is just kind of a flavor of whatever you want it to be. Does that make sense, like, at all? I know it's kind of weird and kind of jargony, but it really is, I think, the best way to approach music, especially if you don't know theory, because it helps you think about music from an emotional lens and not a theory lens. Even though there is theory in terms of the emotional arc of things, but that's for a different day. That kind of sounds like "Distant Places" by Tanuki. I actually don't know Tanuki's song. I don't know that song by Tanuki. I played a song yesterday in DDR though. Hyper Twist, good song. Pack Marble, yeah, good to see you, by the way. Yes, but how do you go about traveling between chords? What do you mean by like traveling? Like, so the way I travel, what do you avoid? So if we're in the key of B minor, that is a term called diatonic, meaning that any notes I play in B minor are diatonic to the key. So, right? Right? So I know that in the key of B minor, this G chord is diatonic to B minor. So I know we're good. This A chord is also diatonic because the notes A, C sharp, E are part of B minor. That's how you know that the note values, generally speaking, are safe and safe, and you can work within that. It's very simplistic music writing. As long as it sounds the way you want to, for sure. So the one time where I actually go out of the diatonic space is during the drop, where I do, it sounds weird right now because the delay compensation is not on. Sorry about that. Right, but right, and all that is taking our home chord. That's chromaticism. So as I mentioned earlier, right, we have the B minor chord, and now we're doing a C minor chord. I love doing that. I do that all the time, and that's a great way to add darkness when you want to have that contrast, right? So here we have the kind of the drops melody. Right? That's the contrast, not just from a song perspective, not just from a, A, B, perspective of different like styles and grooves. It's also from a compositional lens because we have this brighter, more uplifting movement, right? We have that more uplifting, more movement style to now just the subdominant, yes, I think you could parse it that way. I'm not too versed in actual theory names. I know the principles, but I don't remember the names because it's been like 10 years since college. But I believe so. You could call it like a subdominant or some kind of dominant-esque thing. Because the C minor is acting as your dominant chord, the same way that your A chord is acting as dominant to the B. Well, no, it's not C sharp. It's actually C minor. Because we're living chromaticism. That is we're going out of our diatonic key just this once, so we can create that darkness. Because that's a moment where you feel like, this is an unusual feeling or flavor. Yes, exactly. Because that's how I like to do in this song. That's how I want to approach the variance, the difference of the drops like da 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 to the ba da 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 da, right? I hope some of the songs you're planning to release in the coming months will contain some of your vocals. That'd be cool. I can't sing. You might hear vocals of me where I'm vocoding or doing effects, but I'm not a singer. I'm sorry, Perjury. That day will not probably come. James, what's your opinion on how a stage song should feel depending on the composer? For example, the difference between Japanese and US soundtrack and Song CD. What's your favorite and why? I prefer. I think both are great. And by the way, the Sonic CD soundtrack was done in less than a month. The whole soundtrack, which is, for any professional who hears that, is like absolutely incredible and kind of insane. That deadline is not reasonable. So you know, how it should feel is depend to what the developer wants. Because at the end of the day, you know, when I'm writing for versus this is a song that I'm writing for myself. When I'm writing for like No Straight Roads or another video game, I'm writing for what the developer wants. The developer says, we want this feeling, we want this mood, do it, right? So it's hard to say exactly how I feel because it's not about how I feel more or less. It's about how they feel. And that's kind of the answer to it. Holy shit. Hope you did a project rundown of your new song so I came by a check. Little did I know you're doing it right now. I'm glad to hear it, Baka. Hell yeah. I sure am a nerd, Sky. That's the... I hope I'm a nerd. That's kind of the point. Technical, yes, that song is planned into my release schedule. So when that song is released, I will then show it off. That is absolutely true. Yep. But so that's kind of when I'm thinking about the chord writing of a song, that's basically it. We're just thinking about simple ideas here. And then, right? I do that stuff all the time. And even in the variant section, like the ba-na-na-na. Pete the Ninja, I'm doing good. Going through my song. How you doing, man? Once again, that bass line is unique. We're still referencing the B section, right? The ba 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 da, right? But now we're kind of exploring that idea a little further because we have the one second. We have the come on, this note is sticky. This keyboard has sticky notes. Oh. Right. All I'm doing is using that C note, that chromatism, that top note, that cream, pure vanilla, to just explore the darkness of that moment. Right? It's the same, right? It's literally, when we really break it down, these ideas are just very simple. It's just trying to squeeze every last juice and bit out of this idea for how this makes sense in the song. That's it. So definitely avoid parallel fifths. Sometimes I do parallel fifths, so especially in contemporary writing, technical, there are times where I do parallel fifths and it sounds great. It just depends. It really does. I appreciate Perjury. Thank you. What about tritones? Sometimes, again, some tritones can be great sounding. It just depends. James, music is always so good for my ear holes. I'm glad to hear it, Pete. Do you feel like the bass line is a counter melody? Not really, because the bass line is not countering anything. Like, that bass line is just... it's just a melody. Right? It's just a melody. It's not even a counter melody to anything. There's just a chord, which is the B chord. And then it has that writing. The ba 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 ba. Again, when you're thinking about the whole arc of a song right now, different instruments are at different points being the focus. Does that make sense at all? Right? So like, for example, in the verse section, the main focus is the voice. Right? And usually when there's vocals, that is the main focus. But there are occasions where I go off that beaten path. Because, right, like, when we're here, it's not when we go to the drop, it's not the voice anymore, it's the drop synth sounds. Right? And then when we're in the variant section, there's no melody. There's no vocal, there's no like melody, it's just the bass. And now the bass is now the focus. These are things as a listener that make the experience more interesting, because not only is there change in obviously the song composition and the sounds in this, there's now change in the kind of sounds that the listener should be caring about. Can you just modify your voice to sound better? I guess so, but that's not enough to be a good singer. Trust me, as someone who's worked with many vocalists who I would argue are not good singers, it is not enough just to be... It's not just enough to be a good singer to have a good recording. It's also not enough to be a bad singer and use every good tool to make yourself a good singer. It just doesn't work that way. And unfortunately, you cannot really make a sound. There's always tricks to make a sound good, but if you want a voice to sound good, it's not that simple without a lot of thought and fine tuning to the point where it's just not a good sound, probably. To be an actual voice. If that answers your question. So this is basically the general layout. So what's your opinion on Cash Cash then? I love Cash Cash. I think they're fun. They're fun music. I liked Cash Cash before Sonic. They were good. But yeah, so when we think about simple ideas here, if I pull it back up here, 1 second, we're gonna do release latency monitor, turn it off. You know, the way how I always structure when I always write every song is I like to stay as simple as possible. Right, the melody is the simplest thing on the planet, because when you have a simple melody, and some would say I sometimes write too simply, which is fine. That's a totally fair feedback to say about my music. With simple melodies, you can have a lot more interesting results, because with simple melodies, you can go anywhere, right? Like, for example, if with the squid voice, I'll do right now. For example, I'm gonna do this actually. I will demonstrate to you, like with a simple melody, I can do any chords I want. Right? I can do anything with these chords. With a simple melody, your chords can be endless. Right? You get the point, right? Like, you can literally just go anywhere. And it can be a completely different song because the melody is so simple. Right, keeps the flow. Yeah, so that's why I love the philosophy of simple melodies. Kind of like in pop music. I like to take a very pop approach to songwriting. Weed Boy, how you doing? Oh, hello, Wario. That's right, Weebio's in the chat. Yeah, you can do anything with a simple melody. The simpler, the better. The more complicated your melody doesn't mean it's a bad melody. It's just that when you write more complicated melodies, you have to, put a little more thought into what options do you have. And so for me, I like simple melodies for catchy reasons and for option reasons. That is the kind of the intricacies of it, right? In even the beginning of the song, right? Like, so for example, I have this this synth ring right here. This kind of like this. It's just a G chord. It's nothing special. It's just a G chord. But what I'm doing is creating movement by moving the A to the B. Because by having movement in the chord itself, which I know in theory works, in musical theory works, because this G A chord, because A and B is part of the G chord harmonic series. Same thing with this B chord. That's really all it is. And, at this point, I can go into different directions and flavors of why I do that. Because at the end of the day, it's just a preferential thing. Where do you learn music theory? I learned it on my own in high school, and then I went to college for music production. And so music college is probably the better answer to give. But yes, Berklee College of Music is where I went to school. And that's where I learned a lot of the more advanced techniques in music theory writing. but I've been producing for 5 years since, you know, college. So, you know, self-taught as well. Stew Stock, thank you for the GameCube. I appreciate it. Right, so that's basically like where I'm at with the song. I'm not sure if there's anything else anyone else in the chat wants me to cover. It's been over 2 hours, and I thank everyone for sticking around or stopping by. Are there things you want me to share? Are there things you want me to show? It's questionnaire time. So, because, you know, as even in 2 hours time, I'm going into a lot of the sauce, like, and we're just scratching the surface really of like probably like 30 to 40% actually of like how much is really involved in a production of a song. It's things like this that makes me it is things like this that make me respect Toby Fox. You make the game to the soundtrack at the same time. Yes, in some ways it's also an advantage because, you know, naturally we're not mind readers. So when a developer hits me up to write music for a game, you know, I kind of have to read their mind to the best of my ability. And when you're Toby Fox and you have such a clear vision of like the game, you know, you want, that also means you know how you want the music to be. So you're more likely to get a result that is really specific and accurate to how you want the game to feel, which is, you know, yes, of course, it's a lot more work for the person involved. I'm not discounting that, but if you can do it yourself and you have the time and energy for it, you're at a huge advantage on the vision of production. Does that make sense? Music's crazy, man. This is you know, this is years of practice and work of, you know, this whole thing was made in like in a week's time. So when you do this for a long time, you get enough experience and experience and practice to just be able to, I can think at this point in my career, I can think of an idea and get it down on paper with pretty decent accuracy. That is the hardest part. The hardest part of music production is thinking of an idea and knowing how to get to exist in reality. Once you got that part down to some level, then you're crushing it. Then you're off to the races. But yeah, so if no one else has any questions specifically in the session while I'm here, you know, I think I'll call it. I think I'm good to go. You know, it's been a lot of fun to go through the session, and I hope everyone stuck around and enjoyed it. It would be very lightning if you could stream and make a track from scratch. Yeah, I would like to do that. I'll show you how crazy and complicated this shit is. But I'll definitely do it for a stream. That's not something I've thought about. I don't think I can finish a song in one stream's time, but yeah. Please do. Is this going to be archived? Yes, I'm going to post this on YouTube. So this will be on YouTube probably in a week or so from now. So yes, it will be archived. It will be available. I'm going to make clips of it too for YouTube, like for the showing YouTube how I make the squid sound. You know, so don't you worry. It will be available for accessing. Yeah, Ari, thank you for stopping by. I wish I knew what to ask, but I'm just baffled by how you do things. Allie, that's how I feel about you with cosplay, so the thing is mutual. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you everyone for stopping by. It's been honestly just a great time, and yeah. So so the next song that comes out this month at the end of June, I'll do a similar thing. Basically, expect a stream of how I make my music after I release every song. Because I want to share everything with you guys as much as I can, and there's no secrets. There's no, as much as producers want to act like there's a secrets, there's no secrets. Like, fuck that shit. So I'm glad you all enjoy this, and yes, please stay tuned. Please, yeah. I'm never really good with how to end a stream, but anyways, stay tuned. You guys are awesome. Thank you everyone, and I will talk to you soon. All right, yeah. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.